Yeah. Come on in, folks. Come on in. Good to see everybody. Haven't seen you all in a while. I don't think I've seen you since I've been retired. Do I look retired? Or I just look tired? There's a thin line between retired and tired.
Entire.
Technically, retired means that you're tired again,
Right.
and
You're tired for the second time.
I have been so busy since being retired, and if Angela doesn't leave me alone, I'm gonna be busier than that. But good to see everybody. Good to see the dfree team. Come on in. Welcome to Wealth on Wednesdays. Today's conversation is going to be quite interesting. But before we get there, let me welcome Janaya, our deputy director. She's not just on the webinar, she's literally in the office.
I am.
This is your first time even seeing the office, isn't it?
My first time seeing the office. I realized also our hires that we hired during COVID. This is my first time actually seeing some of our staff. We've been seeing each other virtually so much almost every day, but this was the first time even meeting some of the staff in person. So
yeah, it's been weird. We had a hospital board meeting this morning. I had a bank board meeting, I think, last month. And it's a strange phenomenon reconnecting with people after having been digital and virtual for about 15, 16 months. And it's weird because, for instance, I flew on a plane. You flew here, obviously. I flew on a plane to somewhere, and people on the plane, it's just weird.
It is.
I took a train to Washington yesterday, and you have to wear your mask,
right,
in airports and the train stations, on the train and on the plane. And fortunately, I didn't have any of those nuts that want to fight you over a mask. But it's been strange, and that's the only word for it, because we have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
We've been apart from people, but we've never been apart from people connected virtually.
Right.
So, I've gone 2 and 3 years without seeing people, and then you see them and that's it. But to see people physically that you've been talking to virtually is really strange. And let me tell you the strangest thing for me. You don't know if you should shake hands, if you should bump fists, if you should hug, or if you should just wave.
You do. It's that awkward, like.
It's awkward. That's the word. It's awkward. You don't know how to greet people. And then other than your immediate circle, you don't know who's been vaccinated, who's not been vaccinated. So what we need to do, though, I need to see who's here. How do I do this? Okay, attendees. Hello, attendees. Carla, Carolyn, good. Deborah, good. Gigi, good. Let me say to those of you who are earlier than the rest, while we're talking about COVID and the impact of COVID, when COVID hit last March 2020, we decided, like churches and other businesses, we decided that we would go virtual consistently. And from the 1st of April, 2020 up to and including today, we've been doing these Wednesday webinars. And the thinking, someone asked me from our team in Ghana, well, why Wednesday, right? Well, Wednesday because it was midweek, but more importantly, midday, because it was an opportunity for us to do what we would call a lunch and learn, where if people are home all day and they're working from 7:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, sitting behind the screen doing their work, this was a kind of break, a lunch break while you're eating lunch and breaking from your work. You can listen to dfree. Now that COVID is subsiding, well, except Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas, which is really frightening. The vaccination rates in those 3 states are so low that we could have a national resurgence simply because of what's happening in those 3 states. But assuming that we don't, now that COVID is over, now that people are going to work physically in their offices, I'm not sure people will have as much time in the office to hang out with us midday, midweek, as they did during COVID. And so what we'll be talking about next week, you Tamika and I, what I've been talking to our team over here about is by September, we want to restructure the way we do this. We could not behave during COVID the way we did before COVID. And we probably should not behave after COVID the way we did during COVID. And so I'll be looking for input from all of you who are regulars on Wednesdays about when our live events should be, because I have a whole list of live topics and I've got people lined up for those topics. But the good thing about this digital technology is that you don't have to see it live. You can watch it anytime you want to. So we'll be talking strategy. Anyone who is a regular with us, especially on Wednesdays, if you have any suggestions about what you would do if you were in our situation. In fact, from what I've heard, some of you will be in our situation because you're going to be hosting these webinars with us and for us. So let us know what you think about scheduling, what time of day, what time of evening, what day of the week. I know the Monday Night Live has been pretty popular. Are you still doing that?
We're still doing Monday Night Live. We still have new folks coming on. We had some new folks coming on last Monday. And we tend to pick up, when we have live classes. So we usually see an influx of folks kind of joining in when we launch new classes and such. So yeah, Monday Night Live is still going good.
Okay, good. So I see people in the chat already telling us what to do, which is fine. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk to the president of a company, a relatively new company called Uncommon Giving. I wanted to do this for two reasons. I was explaining to him that when we talk about dfree, we are still heavily perceived as get out of debt. And we always should be, because it doesn't make sense to invest in anything or plan for any financial increase if you're drowning in debt. So we'll always start with debt. The first bad D is debt. However, we put just as much emphasis on level 3 and 4, which is get ahead and give back, as we do levels 1 and 2, which is get started and get control. And we've established our relationship with an institutional partner that is uniquely positioned to both do level 3 and 4 at the same time. It's a company that you can invest in, and it's a company you can invest through, and then it's a company that gives you a platform to give back. It's really a unique kind of platform that is generally available to very rich people. That's why we said, if you want to give like the 1%, this is for you. And I think you'll find it very interesting. The gentleman that we're going to talk to, I've recorded the interview already, is Earl Bridges. Then I'll come back. We're going to do some Q&A. And then I want you to give us an update on the $1 Billion Challenge, the faith and finance launch that we're going to do. And then there's one other something I want to talk about before 1 o'clock. Okay. So thank you everybody for being with us. Janae Grant, I'm so glad to see you. I'm going to do another series with Kiera Sheard, by the way. We haven't scheduled it yet, but she insists that we have to do something else, and we're going to do something else. All right, Steve Cooper, good to see you. Steve's probably not really watching. He probably logs in so he looks like he's watching. He does like the kids in school, then he goes and does something else. But good to see you, Steve. All right, so let's go to Uncommon Giving and the president of that company, Mr. Earl Bridges. Steve says he's here. I might be able to say something quickly before the video starts. Hold on. Well, bring us up to date on the $1 Billion Challenge while we're waiting for the video.
Yeah. We are almost to 31 million, Dr. Soares. We
Good.
are at 30 million nine. We crossed over 30 million 908, I think we looked at Monday. So we are all set to get to 31 million. We've chatted
Great.
about it after.
Good. We'll talk more about that after this. Okay, here's our interview with Earl Bridges from Uncommon Giving. We can just get some audio, we'd be all right. If you've been to my LinkedIn page, you'll see that I have a connection to Uncommon Giving. And I want to welcome the president of Uncommon Giving to our dfree Wealth on Wednesdays webinar, Earl Bridges. Earl, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Soares. This is a big pleasure for me as well. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
That is wonderful. Earl, give our audience and my friends, we do this, it's not really television. We try to stay a little informal if we can, but share with my friends a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how your life story unfolded into this current enterprise / mission.
You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I grew up in Bangkok, Thailand. My dad was actually an Air Force pilot. And so I grew up, my elementary schools in Thailand. And then when he got out after his 20 years, he went as a missionary back to Thailand. And so I spent my high school years and finished out there. And they stayed as missionaries for another 15 or so years. So my journey, I think, is very similar to anyone that's been in and around the church. When you're around the church, you're always around, people that have needs. And we see that the Bible says that the poor will always be with us. And the first place they look is to the church oftentimes. And so there's a responsibility that we always had. And I think I always grappled with, how do you help? How do you help? How do you help somebody that really needs it? Especially when they're looking at a missionary family where we felt like we were poor. How do we help, people that on that side? So I grew up around a lot of that. Then I made my way into technology, spent a lot of time in the nonprofit space. And as of last October, I joined Uncommon Giving. And really, this is an opportunity for us to really what we call awaken generosity. And so I look forward to the conversation around that. But technology, philanthropy has been my whole life since I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Well, Earl, I'm pleased to meet you. I just love your passion and your vision. And once people finish listening to you, I'm sure they'll love you as much as I do. Listen, dfree is our brand. It's a brand, it's a curriculum, it's a movement. We're in churches around the country, fraternities, sororities, with a very specific focus on closing the wealth gap and addressing wealth inadequacies within Black Americans. What's interesting is that our process, as I've described it, starts with how to get started. And we talk to a lot of people who just, they're drowning in debt or they're behind in their financial lives. And they literally just need help getting started. They need motivational strategy. And then we teach people how to get control of what they have, because of course it doesn't make sense to get more if you're not in charge of what you have. But you represent really the third and fourth levels of what we call D3, that is how to get ahead and how to give back. And I couldn't think of anybody that I could talk to whose work involves both equally, getting ahead through investing and growing your assets, and then giving back philanthropically and through Christian stewardship. So uncommon giving. Why uncommon, first of all?
Yeah. Well,
What's uncommon about uncommon?
Well, I think there are a lot of the tools that have been available for a great many years have really only been available to people that were either high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals. And so what we always thought was, you know what, every one of us can give. And we know that, you know, it doesn't, there's the, again, go back to the Bible, there's the widow's mite. I mean, we can give at a very low level and start being, you know, helping at a low level. So uncommon giving really is meant to make this type of generosity that's available at the high net worth areas for really everybody. So you can earn your way into a philanthropic legacy like, you know, we do in my family. We're no Rockefellers, but you know what, we give and we get all the benefits from giving as anyone else does. So uncommon giving is really, it's a group of tools that are available to you. Anyone here can go online, go on to uncommongiving.com, sign up for an account. And then inside of that, we'll talk about some of that functionality, but you can be your own Rockefeller. I don't care how much you make. There's a way for you to get involved in giving at the absolute lowest level, all the way up to whenever you guys do get to the point where you're bringing in the big bucks.
The reality is the average church member is much more philanthropic than they realize. We don't call it philanthropy because, to your point, we don't give away millions of dollars and have our names put on buildings. But the fact is, I know the Black church has become the strong institution that it is in large measure because people like my grandmothers who had no education, domestic workers, they put God first, they put the church first, and they gave generously to their local churches.
Right.
But when I tell people who contact me about uncommon giving that on the front end, it's a donor advised fund.
That's
because
right.
Again, it's high net worth people who normally use that kind of instrument. In plain language, give my community a sense of what is a donor advised fund and what are the benefits?
Yeah, so just so you guys know, I mean, we refer to it as a DAF, but a donor advised fund is simply it's a vehicle that you can make a contribution into. It's an account. And as soon as you make the contribution into that account, then you have control over when that money gets distributed to a nonprofit, including a church. Like you say, Dr. Soares, 1/3 of all giving is still given in the collection plate. And there's nothing more charitable than what you see in the faith-based community. So a donor advised fund allows you to take money, stick it into a donor advised fund. And I always suggest do it while you're making some money. We talk about workplace later on, but this is the opportunity. So while you have the funds, set it aside. And when you're ready to give, you advise it. You are the donor and you get to advise where that thing goes. So it can sit in an account indefinitely, but at some point, that money that you've contributed will make its way to a nonprofit. So whether that's today or when the need is greatest that you see it later on, it's a tool that you can do. We actually...
Isn't a donor advised fund also an instrument that many wealthy people use for investing?
Absolutely.
You can grow your intended gift so that by the time you do give it, it's larger than your original deposit.
Absolutely. This is what's interesting about the donor advised fund, and this is what's unique about uncommon giving. In the uncommon giving, we're basically, we start with the workplace. So while you're making money, set aside some money. You could actually do all of your tithing or your giving through a payroll deduction into the account. But while it's sitting in that account, if you don't yet know where you want that money to go, then you can take it and you can invest it, and it will invest tax-free over whatever time you keep it into the account. And then at some point you can make a large contribution. So maybe you're not really interested in giving a $10 or a $100 gift now. You're trying to accumulate. When a capital campaign comes in or a big church is coming in or whatever, it's nice to say you've got a set of money that's grown over time, that when you're ready, all of that money can be made into a contribution. And basically all you're doing is you've already gotten the tax write-off from this moment that you gave it, but you're able to give it when the need is most appropriate. That's the key to a donor advised fund.
That is absolutely the key. And
Mhm.
again, we don't talk about it much on Main Street because it's usually Wall Street that offers high net worth individuals this kind of approach.
Yep.
What I love about Uncommon is that it's entry level investing and giving
Mhm.
that makes available for normal people what only the wealthy normally get.
Exactly. It wasn't that long ago, actually, that in order to open up a donor advised fund, that you would have had to come up with $25,000 or $50,000 to open an account. And so what's changing is that world. And there's several things that are happening in our financial world that I like. The Jobs Act allows you to invest earlier on and get some of the big upside that happens. But the donor advised fund is another one of those vehicles that will let you open an account with $10. I mean, you don't need a lot of money. You can start doing that. And actually what I like about it is all of your listeners probably give. I'm sure they give to the church and they've given over time. But you can do something like I did. With the donor advised fund, I teach my daughter how to give, like my dad taught me how to save. When I was a kid, my dad gave me a savings account and said, Earl, why don't you go mow some lawns, and as you make money, save some money, because that's important for increasing wealth. Donor advised funds are the same thing. I can give my daughter, who's 17, an account, and I could put $100 in there and say, hey, as you make money, think about what's important to you and where you want to make the contributions. And she can do that through the course of her life. And so a donor advised fund actually is a way to track not only all the contributions that you make, but also all the volunteering and all the hours. You basically get a longitudinal view of every good thing you've ever done your whole life. It sits inside of that. And that's what you can get at Uncommon Giving, is this donor advised fund that grows with you in a way that makes smart giving.
The other feature I like about Uncommon Giving is that wallet. You'll talk about that wallet. And I'll tell you why, because of course I give to my local church, but also give to other charities throughout the year. And at the end of the year,
Absolutely.
I have the hardest time remembering, collecting, organizing. When my accountant says, well, what did you give? And I give him the number, and he looks at my receipt in the church and said, well, it doesn't say that. And then I have to remember, the charter school that I gave money to,
the kid down the road.
And what Uncommon has done for me is give me a chance to organize all of that through one giving portal. Talk about that wallet.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the digital wallet is exactly what you say. You probably do what I do. It gets around tax time and I have to call my wife and say, remind me where all we gave money. Because I know we're writing checks to the church. We do that old school, but we're giving the other kids, a contribution here. We're making a donor. You can do everything, through your account right here. So it's on your iPhone inside of the app. So as you're making the giving, you can see all of the giving that you've done. And when at the end of the year, when it comes down to where did I give, I can see a single record of all of the contributions that I've done. That actually consolidates all the giving. And all of a sudden, this is the biggest problem I think with giving is we don't realize until tax time where all you gave. But the last place to feel good about where you gave is tax time. That takes all the joy out of giving altogether. So it's one of those things, if you do it throughout the year and you look at it later on, you can see it's all consolidated in a single place. And for me, that's one of the things that we're trying to do is awaken generosity. Give as soon as you give. If you're sticking aside some money, someone comes up to you and says, hey, can you give to the Charleston Animal Society? I can say, yeah, I've got $350. I'll totally give you $100. And because it's part of this workplace giving, my employer may have a matching gift program as well. So I'll give you $100 and I'll immediately ask my employer to give their $100 match. And as long as the employer supports that, now you've doubled the donation. Now you really do start giving like a bigger giver. And I think all of those tools, plus the investment, plus the growing, is a way for us to bring in giving into a single experience.
Yeah, the other thing I like about Uncommon is that it solves a problem that can be substantial if you're trying to give from the workplace. I was very close to a friend of mine ran the United Way in my area, but in order to give from my job to my charity of choice through the United Way, there was some bureaucracy there
Right.
It made it hard. I had to have the right number and
Mhm.
had to come at a certain time of the year.
Right.
What Uncommon has done is really simplify the process
That's right.
of payroll deduction that could go to any one of a million charities in the country. Right?
That's right. It's really, it's, I think, three fundamental things that we do. Number one is all of the 1.2 million nonprofits that are out there that are certified by the IRS are available in the platform. So like I said, you can go in, sign up, and give to any one of those 1.2 million nonprofits that are out there, and they give. Second is that you can really simplify that payroll deduction component of it. And I talked about these matching gift programs, et cetera. So that's another areas that we go through and actually simplify it. We're checking to make sure that the organization is good with the IRS so that you don't run into trouble later on thinking that you gave to an organization, but you're not qualified for that charitable contribution. So we take care of all of the hard work behind it. Again, to make the frictionless experience of just giving, just give. Whenever you want to give, and then feel good about giving because it's already money that you've designated for, charitable contributions, but you can do it at a moment's notice. So there's a lot of tools that we provide inside of this digital wallet that you talk about. We view it as almost like in the workplace, like a 401k. It's a benefit to the employees. Your employer gives, we call it a 401g, because you get the account oftentimes from your employer or anyone else who signs up right now. And if you leave your employer and you go to work for another employer, you still have that same account. You only need one charitable contribution, one donor advised fund for your whole life. And we hope that Uncommon Giving has enough tools and is reason enough for you to do it. Adopt it now, use it for the rest of your life, give it to your kids, expand it out for friends and family.
So is this workplace giving just for companies with a lot of employees? I've got a little company with about 10 employees.
I'm interested.
Useful for a small company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was the thing. I had another company before and we ended up selling that company, but we used to only deal with the really large ones. And I always said, look, if we could work with organizations that are 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, because if you think about it, there's nothing more important than how a company shows up in the community. And oftentimes that's through how you spend your time and how you spend your money. If something were to happen in New Jersey and you guys were supposed to, and you were responding to a hurricane or a shooting or something like that, it should be just as easy for a company that's only 10 employees or 10,000 employees or 100,000 employees. And that's really goes back to this idea of how do we democratize giving? Give you guys with a 10 employee company the same benefits that a company that has 100 or 100,000.
Yeah. Earl, we work with a lot of national nonprofit organizations. For instance, dfree has a relationship with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, 400,000 outstanding Black women. In fact, we're working with almost all of the Black fraternities and sororities now who are using some aspect of our program.
That's right.
What benefit is this, or should I say, how would a nonprofit organization align itself so that it can position itself to benefit from the philanthropy that comes through Uncommon?
Yeah, so actually, this is a good point because this is really a goose that lays golden eggs. When you have, if you're part of a nonprofit, then you can go and you can claim your organization inside of the Uncommon Giving platform. And what you're doing is you're basically giving access to all of these people that work for different organizations. And on the Uncommon Giving platform, when you go, you can actually highlight your cause, show the programs, provide pictures. We do a social media feed. So we try, as you're updating and telling people about the good work that you're doing, if you've claimed your profile, you can really control what that messaging is. But what we do as a company is we bring to bear all of these companies and their employees, people that are working, that are encouraged to give, a place to say, here's some organization. Fraternity sororities, these types of organizations are great. Quite frankly, there's a couple of different places that people tend to give. Number one, you always tend to give to your church. That's one of the most. Second one is your alma mater. So I went to University of South Carolina, my wife went to Clemson. I will never give to Clemson. I will only, and everyone knows the same way, but fraternities and sororities, that is a tight bond. And if you're trying to develop that relationship with that alma mater, the alumni, the folks that are in there, they already do a million different things, but giving is always so core to any nonprofit. So I would encourage anyone that's out there, claim your organization. You can go in. We have a process to verify that. And then it opens up a world of giving. It makes it easy for you to take money, and it makes it easy for a giver to give money. And there could be an easier way to awaken generosity.
So you're in the business of building a platform that makes it easy for people to give to good causes.
That's right.
The people that participate in my work
Mhm.
are interested in helping people themselves. But if you are my friend, you're their friend. And when you leave, I promise you, when you leave, somebody's going to say, well, what can we do to help Uncommon? What's the answer to that? As we close, what can I ask my community to do to help promote Uncommon? Because the stronger you are, the stronger you're in a position to help us.
3 things, I think. Number 1, go in and get yourself an account. Go into uncommonGiving.com, sign up for an account. Number 2, if you love an organization, you love your church, or you love the nonprofit, or you love the sorority, encourage them to claim their organization in the platform itself, and that helps. But the 3rd way is that we actually have an ability for you to invest in this company that we're growing. This is really early investment, but you can go onto the platform and there's an ability for you to invest. Now, this goes back to the Jobs Act, which allowed for non-accredited investors, meaning just every man to go in and start, investing in technology companies like ours. So you can go in and for as low as $1,000, you can make an investment. And when Uncommon Giving grows, you not only get to use the product, you get to own that product, and there's some wealth creation that happens on that side. And I would say those are the 3 things we would love for every one of your community to be involved. And you think about it, I love the church, but there is a lot of philanthropy that happens inside of there. And this is a fertile ground for folks that are trying to make their way from the lower levels, as you say, to that step 3, step 4 areas.
Yeah, I thought that was the last question, but I have to ask. When you say go in and open an account, how much does it cost to open an account with Uncommon?
First of all, it doesn't cost anything. You could actually open it without any money at all. But that being said, and it's about 5 seconds, 10 seconds to do that. While we were sitting here talking, you could have opened your own account. But if you want to start it, you could start it with as little as you want. You could put $10 into an account right there. You're not required to do that to start the account. You might as well just claim it now. But if you do it over time, you'll see that your giving will grow, your wealth will grow, and that overall you're going to be in a better spot.
Yeah, folks, giving is a lifestyle. It's not an event. And what Uncommon does is gives you a technology partner to facilitate the lifestyle and to build and grow it in the future years. Listen, Earl, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing.
Yes.
I'm going to do everything I can to help Uncommon because, first of all, I believe in you and the leadership. And secondly, I believe in the cause because the reality is this: government funding is good, but private donations like these will always be better for the average nonprofit than a government grant. This is free money. It's unrestricted money.
Right.
I gave a government grant back to the federal government because the restrictions were so onerous, it would have put us out of business to try to execute. And so I'd rather have $100 of private donations than to have $1,000 of government grants. So listen, thank you so much.
Dr. Soares, thank you.
Coming to Charleston.
Come on down. We love you down here. Get you some shrimp and grits, and we'll show you around.
So
this I didn't know. This was the worst.
Any excuse we get to go to South Carolina, we're in South Carolina.
Come on down. And
We'll be
again,
down there to see you soon.
thank you, Dr. Soares. I appreciate the time today.
God bless you and the work that you're doing, and we'll be in touch.
Same to you.
All right.
All right, folks, there you have it. There you have it. I've already thanked Earl for being with us. Janiyah, this is new information for most of our people because it's really a tool of the super wealthy. Let me give you an example of something we didn't talk about, but that we will talk about in the future. If I have a donor advised fund, and you can set up a donor advised fund in any brokerage firm, well, not any brokerage firm, but there are many of you, and you've been in banking, you know that. And what if I put $100 in my donor advised fund, I can deduct $100, of course, as a tax write-off. But if I keep it there, that fund, it's called a fund because they invest my $100. And my $100 can grow to $500, which means that 3 years from now, I could literally give the church a $500 donation, even though it was only a $100 deposit. And that's the magic of the donor advised fund. That's how very wealthy people put $1 million in a donor advised fund and keep it there for 10 years. And 10 years later, they're donating $15 million to the university. So that's that. And now I'm going to talk later on, I'm going to talk about another strategy of investing money in a fund that grows without you having to pay taxes on it. See, I've been around so many rich people, they've taught me their tricks. So I'm just trying to bring the tricks of the rich to our community. And Uncommon Giving is a new company. They've spent the last 2 to 2.5 years just working on their technology. They raised millions of dollars from investors, and they've used almost all of that money to develop a platform. And I have enough confidence now to bring it to our community. Here's the other thing I want, because I'm going to talk about our foundation in a minute. I want all of our people, most of our people throughout the country are affiliated with nonprofit organizations. I want all of our dfree partners to sign up your nonprofit under Uncommon, because see, here's how they've set up the company. Gold Star gives you access to any IRS tax exempt corporation in the country. So if you want to look up any corporation that's tax exempt, you can go to goldstar.com, you type in their name, and they give you all of their business, right? There are 1.3 million of these companies, nonprofits. So Uncommon has the whole Gold Star database on their platform. Mm-hmm. But what they're going to do as a company is promote certain organizations based on their corporate values. And one of their corporate values is closing the wealth gap, racial equality. And so what I plan to do is ask all of our members, the Deltas, the General Baptist Convention of New Jersey, National Baptist Convention of America, I want all of us to register our nonprofit. That's free. Right. And then what I plan to do is to have the Uncommon board and executives promote all of the dfree affiliates, so that all of their rich people that invest and donate through them will see us as recommended organizations, because we all need money. So that's my strategy.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And there's not really a space that I'm aware of that does this kind of strategy, as you said, is what rich people does. It's kind of an elite strategy, and we're bringing it available to and opportunities to our nonprofits, our community that's raising money, but as well as the people that are giving to them, for them to consider a strategy as well. And how do we grow our donations by letting them increase in value, which then increases the donation to what we're supporting as well. We had some comments say that they just called their executive director of a nonprofit that they give to and got them to plugged into this. So this is great.
Well, one of the reasons I'm so busy, one of the reasons.
Only one?
Yeah. Besides being addicted to being busy, I spend a lot of time scouring the country looking for things that I think white people benefit from that Black people don't know about, Mm-hmm. And you know where I got that from? I wrote about this in one of my books. When I was in high school, I went to high school that was 24% Black and the rest were white. And I ran for student government president in my junior year. And I figured, I had a lot of white friends. I had all the Black people. So I figured I would win, right? Mm-hmm. On election day, Janiyah, in my high school, almost all of the Black people could not vote in the student government election. So of course, we're ready to burn the school down because it was just blatant racism. But
Mhm.
what it really was, technically what it was, in our high school, you were required to register to vote in student government. And it was, it was the school
Mhm.
teaching us civics and responsibility. Well, it was just strange that it seemed like all the white people knew that. And none of the black people knew that. I didn't know it. I didn't know that I had to be registered to vote in the student government election because we had not had black candidates before. So, student government elections were basically for white people.
Mhm.
Until and when I ran, black people, and I ran the same year Dr. King was killed, black was really black.
Mhm.
And so what we did was we said, now wait a minute, if we're right here in the same building with all these white people and they knew that and we didn't, what else is there going on in this building we don't know about? So we formed one of the first black student unions in a high school for the express purpose of making sure black people knew about stuff that white people knew about.
Mhm.
And it wasn't that the white people were keeping it from us per se,
Yep.
but we just weren't interested. And when by the time we got interested, it was too late. So I guess there's a part of me that has never gotten away from that very early experience. And it I have this passion for finding stuff out and then letting black people know. Uh,
And
and
you and I share this same passion because my background in banking, when I was a young 20-year-old banker, I was really interested in understanding how people grew their savings and would have this money in savings and CDs. So when I was helping people, I would always kind of really get interested in their stories. And I would then go back and compare, because I had people that would say they immigrated to America, and had only, $50 to their name, and they would share their story about growing their wealth. And I would compare and go back to my family and my grandmother and ask her, what did she learn kind of in that same trajectory? And it would just be, we didn't even know. We didn't even know. I didn't know I could do insurance that way. I didn't know. So the same exact thing, you and I talk a lot about our grandmothers in that way and our family, but it's the same thing. They just didn't know. It's not a secret or it's not being withheld. We just don't know. And how do we go find out? Yeah.
and that's why, on this race thing, I'll be talking a lot about race soon because I'm just so frustrated at how shallow these conversations are. In that sense, white people don't have to be offended necessarily when we talk about white privilege because it wasn't the white students' fault that we didn't know, right?
Right.
And it wasn't our fault that they did know. Um, but culturally, we've inherited systems that, if they're left to their own devices, will persist in these gaps. And that's why, when we started dfree and when I first met you, we agreed we didn't need new stuff. We didn't need a lot of new content. We didn't need new ways to teach people how to balance a checkbook. We needed new ways to get people to the information.
Right.
We needed new strategies to get our people connected to stuff that's out there. Now we do need some new stuff. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. We need some new stuff, but you don't know what the new stuff is until you take advantage of all the old stuff, right?
Right.
So talk to me, tell me about this faith thing, and then I want to tell you something about. Well, I want to tell everybody something, which is what really prompted this uncommon giving
Sure.
interview today.
So Academy update. So we are closing out our Divine Nine. I see some of our Divine Nine folks on here. So this Saturday is graduation. Everybody's coming to the end of their 6 sessions. We are graduating. They have had a great time on Saturdays, learning together, celebrating together, celebrating HBCUs, and the Divine Nine has been really exciting to watch. So they are graduating this Saturday, 10 a.m. Those that are in class are getting their Zoom links that they can share with others, and we'll have a little session as we close out. So that's this Saturday. And then Our next upcoming instructor-led course, dfree Foundation is partnering with NBCA. And so we're going to have NBCA dfree leaders that have been leading dfree as ministries along with our dfree staff. We're going to launch Faith and Finance. So Faith and Finance, Thursday evenings for 6 sessions. It launches July 29th. It will be an evening session, so 7 p.m. Eastern to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to go through the dfree principles with the faith component. And so it's open to everyone. We're partnering with NBCA, but we are opening it to everyone that's interested, church, pastor, individuals, everybody. So they can, that registration is open and they can register for that course right now in the academy. So we're really excited about that.
And so let me tell you what Kyle has insisted that I do, which I'm going to do in time for that. You know, each level of the dfree process, you know, level 1 is get started, level 2 is to get control, level 3 is get ahead, and level 4 is give back. Each one of those levels is grounded in a biblical foundation. In the online academy course as it is, the course does not really give the background from a biblical perspective to that level. And what I plan to do is to do a new introduction to add to what you already have in the academy to give especially church leaders an understanding of why Luke chapter 15 was used, what we really derive from Luke chapter 4, etc. And so I'm very excited about that. I do it when I'm speaking live, but I did not do it when I recorded those videos. And I think that'll help church leaders bridge the gap between where people are and where they'd like them to go from a biblical perspective. Now, here is where we are, folks. And I appreciate you all hanging in here with us. I appreciate the comments. And don't forget, what I plan to do is this. I plan to promote Black nonprofits. Now, I know we have white friends. I've got white friends. My sons have white godparents. I talk Black and white because Black people are so disproportionately behind. But, you know, what I've learned, normal white people, just, you know, regular white people that don't come from the upper part of the economy, there are normal white people who have very similar economic outcomes to Black people. Absolutely. So if you're a normal white person, if you know normal white people, you know, who are living paycheck to paycheck and drowning in debt, you know, when I say Black, I'm including them, all right? They're honorary Black people. I told some people the other day on a call, you honorary Black people. But here is the dfree. Here's what I want you all to know about dfree, which I've never told you before. Almost every preacher you know that you see on television or in the public eye, as much as I am, they need money from you to keep doing what they do. So when you see preachers on TV, they can't afford to end their show without asking for money because they need money to come back next week. Let me tell you the uniqueness of our nonprofit, the dfree Global Foundation. We don't need money to keep doing what we do for free as much as we need people. And only God could have done this. In other words, we have people who will help us financially if we can prove that people are interested in what we have to offer. So the more people who sign up for the dfree Academy, the more money we can get without having to ask you for a lot of money. Now we ask you for money, but we don't ask you for a lot of money. And right now we're at a critical juncture where if we don't learn how to get more people, the only way we'll be able to keep doing what we do is to start charging money. We don't charge for our events. We don't charge for training. I don't charge for speaking. And by the way, I want to thank the Delta Dental Corporation. I gave a speech for them, mostly white people, for Juneteenth. And because I don't charge a fee to speak, they gave a $5,000 donation to the dfree Global Foundation. And it's people like that that help us do what we do, right? And so I'm grateful to God for those persons who signed up to be dfree ambassadors for the Juneteenth campaign, because the more people who use our platform, the less we need, the less we need to raise money. And the fewer people who use our platform, the more we have pressure to start thinking about, well, should we charge for this? And should we sell that? And that becomes a hustle. And I'm not interested in hustling at this late date in my life. I didn't retire to hustle. I retired to retire. And so we'll be talking next week. We'll be talking next week, our leadership team, about additional ways to accept your help. Because the more you're willing to help us, not raise money, the more you're willing to help us form groups on the $1 Billion Challenge, have people sign up for the 12-step process, finish the actual course, the more, literally, the more support we can get from people who just love what we do. But they love what we do if people will embrace what we do. And I know it's hard because for some people, Janai, you know, it's too good to be true. And if it's free, they don't think it's really that important or that valuable. And we've seen lives changed without having to ask those people for a dime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that because we're talking about giving, and what we need from you, our Wednesday crowd, is not, we don't need you to give money. We need you to give some time to form a group on the $1 Billion Challenge, to recruit people to be in the academy, because the more people we serve, the less money we need. I know that sounds counterintuitive. I don't want to go into detail, but I'm telling you the absolute truth. So I do want to thank Delta Dental. I want to thank the ambassadors, because without realizing it, you're helping undergird our financial structure by getting more people to get involved in their own financial structure. So thank you for that. Now, go ahead.
I'm gonna add one thing to that. If you are also, so we do have a whole training and engagement team. So if you are also interested, such as we have launched with employee networking groups, particularly Black employee networking groups, if you are part of a community organization. So even if you're someone that may not start a $1 Billion Challenge group, but you are working in communities or organizations, we also do that and support those organizations as well. So if it's you and you want to get folks in the academy, that's great. But even if you're like, hey, there's these great organizations that could benefit from your program with the work that they do, we can help them do the work that they do. We have a whole team that does that as well.
Yeah. So Janaya, I think as we do consider people giving to dfree through Uncommon Giving or directly, one of the most exciting things about our work, I think, is our connection in West Africa and South Africa. We just got an invitation to come to the Congo, which is in Central Africa, right above Angola. I got an email last week from Cote d'Ivoire. The ambassador from Liberia to Cote d'Ivoire is a member of our church, former member of the First Family of Liberia. And Africa is very exciting. In fact, we get more visits to our website from Africa than we do from America.
That's exciting.
The dfree is about to blow up in Ghana, because we're doing something there that we haven't really been able to figure out here. And that is, we're supporting a micro loan program through the Queen Mother of the Achimabwako Kingdom. And every village in the kingdom has a Queen Mother. They report to a national Queen Mother. And she's providing, and we're helping to raise money for small loans for women to buy fruit, to buy vegetables, to buy items that they can sell in the market. And we're giving them access to credit. And our team under Angela's leadership is developing a mobile app where in Ghana, West Africa, where women are without running water, in some instances, electricity. They have these mobile phones. They'll be able to manage their entire financial arrangement with the microloan program through a mobile app that we are developing. And the money to get this app started came from the people who traveled with us to Ghana, because every time we take a trip to Ghana, some of the money goes to support local projects. That's going to be a huge, huge opportunity to not only help our brothers and sisters in Africa, but to help them in a concrete, economically sustainable way. And we have Angela and her team to thank for that. Do we have a video? Because we're going back to Ghana next year 3 times. If Lord willing.
You missed last webinar session. So our last webinar session, we got to meet our whole entire Ghana team.
Right.
Our South Africa team. We got to see all the work that you have done there and that dfree has done there on the continent. And we had some great testimonies. Catherine joined, Michelle Charles joined, shared what it was like on the tour, and we actually launched the tour. So we had a great session last session. Everybody wants to go. We are very excited. The whole team wants to go too. So we're trying to figure out how to make that all work. But
well,
yeah,
we're talking about uncommon giving. You better do some uncommon saving. but the thing is, here's the thing about our trips to West Africa. I'm sure somebody said this last week. We talked about it because of our connection with the king of the Ochiman region.
Mhm.
We have access to sites and events and people in Ghana that the average tourist just does not. I mean, the king, for instance, hosts traditional African ceremony at the palace. Very few, I mean, most people who go to Ghana, they'll see a palace, but it's like a sightseeing stop. We are embraced by and hosted at the palace.
Mhm.
And it's a life-changing experience because the ceremonies, when you see the videos and the dancers and all of that, the ceremonies are very symbolic and they're very specific, and they are the exact ceremonies that they did back in the 1400s. You know, our traditions and our culture in Ghana has not been altered by slavery, by colonialism, by imperialism, by anything. And so when you stand in that palace, you're standing in a space that goes back 700 years, and the traditions likewise. So start saving now. It's a life-changing experience.
$1 billion challenge. We encourage folks to use their $1 billion challenge to save for their Ghana trips. There's a savings feature in there. Folks are making their plans. We actually seen our savings go up in $1 billion challenge last week. We were hoping it was due to the Ghana tours because folks are saving, but
well, that's good.
Savings jump up really nicely last week too. So that was really good.
I have to, we're going to close today with the video for the Ghana trip for those who didn't see it last week. But I want to give a shout out to Kiara Sheard. You know, after we did the February series with her, about 55 of her followers joined her $1 billion challenge group. No, it was more than 55, it was 100 and something. And they paid down $55,000 and they saved about 25. And these are mostly young people. And Kiara is determined to continue building that and using her brand to promote our work. So listen, let's watch. Thank you for your work, Janaya. I hope to see you. I have a 1 o'clock Zoom. I'm still Zooming, even though it's post-COVID. And let's close with this video. And anybody who wants more information can
It's 1 o'clock.
info@mydfree.org, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
The trip to Ghana was an amazing experience. I always wanted to travel to the motherland to see where our ancestors originated.
We had the best time ever, from visiting the king to going to the slave castles.
The memories and experiences that I had during that time of travel are unforgettable. The food, the music, the culture, it was like an awakening.
Angie and her team are so phenomenal in planning and making sure that everything is moving smoothly. I can 100% guarantee that you will have the most life-changing experience just like I did. Hope to see you there.
Thank you all. Have a great day.